We're going to be discussing your work as a criminologist and your book, Why We Love Serial Killers. So, first of all, I have to congratulate you on writing such a readable, comprehensive, and authoritative book.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. It's a book that I really envisioned being for people who want to get an overview of serial killers, what they do. But this is not a practitioner's book. This is not a practicum. This is not for FBI agents or something like that.
Right.
It's for the general public, but it's to get really inside of the minds of these individuals to try to understand their drives, their fantasies, their needs. But then what I also like to do, and why it's called Why We Love Serial Killers, that's the title of the book, and which I realize is an ironic title, is I sort of turn the mirror around so that we look at ourselves psychologically and say, what is the incredible fascination with these individuals? So that's a big part of what the book is about as well.
That's maybe a good place for us to start here is how do you answer that question for yourself?
Well, through extensive research and also participating in a live show that I do, a theatrical show that I do around the United States, I have learned an awful lot about the true crime audience. And your audience may be interested to know that the true crime audience, which consists of millions and millions of people, is predominantly female in composition. 80 to 90% women are drawn to this. Now, it doesn't mean that there aren't men who are interested in serial killers and true crime, but it really is a female thing. And I have investigated this. I've talked to a lot of
Yeah.
female true crime fans. And what they tell me, or my interpretation is that it has to do with empathy. I think we as human beings empathize with all things, the good and the bad. Which is why I think that many of us will actually empathize with and identify with the villain or the monster in classic monster movies. We'll identify with the plight of King Kong or Dracula or the Frankenstein monster
Yeah.
and try
Yeah.
to understand, from their perspective. And I think the same is true with serial killers. The women tell me that they, of course, identify with the victims in these stories because they are predominantly women. So there, but for the grace of God, go I, so to speak. But then there's also the need to try to understand the mind of the predator so as to arm themselves and not become victim of these individuals, or perhaps date or get involved or marry the next Ted Bundy or John Wayne Gacy. So they tell me they're looking for tools. They're looking for practical tools, which is why they are drawn to these, true crime shows, podcasts, etc., and why they frankly come to my show as well. But there's, you dig in deeper, and you dig into the psychology of this, and I think your audience may find this perspective interesting. This one of my conclusions is that when something is so horrific, so horrible, so incomprehensible as why Jeffrey Dahmer would apprehend, kill, mutilate, and ultimately eat his victims, it's beyond the ken, it's beyond our understanding, and therefore truly terrifying. And I think almost at a subconscious level, we think that if I can just somehow wrap my mind around it, then maybe it's not so terrifying after all. I can sleep better at night. But I talked about turning the mirror, to ourselves. And I think the serial killer also allows us to do that, or begs us to do that. We might say, I hate my boss. I hate that SOB. I could kill him, but we don't really do it. We think about it, but we don't really do it. These individuals do. So it begs us to sort of look into the mirror, the darkest part of our nature and our predispositions, and say, what might I do